the beach renourishment I've been supportive of.
Governor, touching on the question before, if Andrew Warren does get reelected, will you suspend him again?
If and buts were candy and nuts, every day would be Christmas. I think it's all going to work out, and I think it'll be good. But I do think it underscores a larger issue of the places around this country that have embraced the more ideological approach to law enforcement, that basically people just get let out, get rid of cash bail, go easy on repeat offenders, don't take property crimes seriously. The governor of Arizona just vetoed a bill that we signed here in Florida so that these squatters could be ejected. What kind of a message does that send, that you're saying you can squat in somebody's house and basically they got to go through a 6-month process? So we've seen a lot of bad ideas be implemented. We know what works. We know Florida's crime rate's at a 50-year low. We know that our retail theft is actually down since I've been governor, but yet we just did great legislation to hold these folks accountable. You should be able to go to the pharmacy and be able to grab deodorant off the shelf without that being behind plexiglass. You know, this should not be Fort Knox, but yet that's what they have to do because people just go in and they loot the stores. That happens because of a weak approach to law and order, and we have a strong approach to law and order. I don't think people have a right, even if you're elected, to just say there's certain laws you don't like, and you're going to go, you're not going to be prosecuting. Maybe somebody is young, so you're just not going to prosecute them for that. That's not what the legislature has implemented in this state. And so you have a duty to uphold the law as it's written. You don't have the right to hijack the law, to go on some ideological joyride and do whatever you want. You know, you take an oath to apply that law. And we do in the state. I mean, you know, we enforce. Could there be laws that are on the books that I would tweak? Like, sure, if I had a magic wand, but that's not the way it works. So we as the state, I think, are the best state for law and order. You look at what happened with spring break in Miami Beach. You know, I told the mayor, I said, don't let this happen again. He's a new mayor, and he's like, don't worry, this is important to me. We've got a plan. And I was like, we'll give you whatever resources you need. So they had a plan. We provided support. And all the businesses are saying it was the best spring break they've ever had. Because not only would you have unruly crowds, you'd have property damage. There'd be people, I talked to a fella down there who's got a restaurant, great restaurant, and people would just storm in, they'd eat, they'd leave without paying. It just was mayhem, and that's not what we want to promote in Florida. We want people to have a good time, we want people to enjoy, but we don't want, you know, mobs to just run the streets. And so you did it, and now everybody's looking back and say, wow, you know, minimal disruption. Anyone that got out of line was held accountable, and it just set a culture. You actually had a lot fewer arrests this year than in the previous two, because people knew what the rules were and they understood what was going to happen. You look at what we've done by holding people accountable, trying to come to this country, our state, illegally. You know, we just interdicted like another 40 Haitians illegally coming, and there were human smugglers on the boat. We stopped them. They're not on the shores of Florida. They got stopped and they got sent back. And so people now, and I think one of the reasons you haven't seen an influx of vessels from Haiti since you've had everything really go, I mean, it's always been problematic, but it's gone south even more in the last couple months, is because people know, why would you want to get in some boat, chart for the Florida Keys, knowing you're going to get stopped, turn around, and sent back to where you came from? It's not worth it. It's not worth doing. If that was the attitude for our southern border, we'd be much better off, because people would know, you know, it's probably not a smart idea to pay some coyote $6,000 to get me to the border if all that's going to be happen is I'm going to be sent back anyways. You would see the numbers decline. But what they do, they know if they just get here, they get a free pass going in to this country, and that's wrong. So it's all about doing what works. The law enforcement folks have had my support. You remember when people were talking about defunding the police in 2020. You remember those BLM riots. We didn't allow that in Florida. We said, no, you're going to be held accountable. We did not turn our backs on law enforcement like many elected officials did at the time. And what's been the result of that? People are flooding into Florida from NYPD, from Illinois, from California. In fact, we've done over 400 new police officers coming to Florida state, local, and municipal agencies since we did our $5,000 bonus program from just New York, Illinois, and California. So these are folks that had jobs, probably most of them have families, and that they pick up and move here to do it because they know they have the support of the community. And that makes a huge difference. It makes you safer when they feel like they can do their jobs appropriately. You think about what happened when you have these Hamas demonstrators out. They're taking over bridges and they're taking over roads. And first of all, you don't have a right to do that. You have someone get stuck in traffic. How do you know if someone may need to get to a hospital, someone may need to pick up a child somewhere, and you're just going to commandeer the road because you have this ideological predilection? They tried to do that in Miami, and what happened? In 10 minutes, they got dragged off the road where they belonged, and we're not going to tolerate that. You look at these universities. When we have students who are doing things that, I mean, look, some of the stuff with the Hamas, I think is absurd that someone would go out and demonstrate on that. But, you know, when you're chasing Jewish students around, when you're not letting a Jewish professor enter a building, when you're targeting people like that, that's not free speech. I mean, that's harassment. That violates appropriate conduct. And yet, at Columbia, at Yale, all these places, those folks rule the roost. They do whatever they want. And these administrators and the presidents of these universities are weak, they're scared, and they don't do anything. You know, you do that in Florida at our universities, we're showing you the door. You're going to be expelled when you're doing that stuff. And you know what? The minute people start to face consequences, you are not going to see this nonsense going on. So I think the approach is very important. We know the approach that these prosecutors have taken in San Francisco, Chicago, Baltimore has failed. And of all the actions you can take, the suspension in Hillsborough and in Orange counties with those state attorneys, you talk to law enforcement on the ground, lives have been saved because we have people in there now who take the law seriously and put the protection of the public above their personal political agenda. And that makes a huge difference, and we're going to continue to stand for law and order. Thanks, everybody.